Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Shanna. We are continuing our Christmas in July series, and I have a brand new set from Spellbinders. It's by Yana Spakula, and it is for Christmas cats. Now, with this die set, there are 4 different cats that you have to work with, and you've got them in different positions. You've got one laying, one reaching, and one standing, and then one that could be playing with something on the ground. Now, each cat has like 2 layers, the base layer and then the decorative layer, and then you've got some back pieces for their heads that you can use. In addition to that, there is the Christmas Cats accessory, and with it, it comes with the tree, the ornaments for the tree, the packages, and a little sweater outfit for one of the cats. You've got some bows for the gifts, and you do have a cracked bulb that you can use to pretend like the cats had broken the bulb on the tree. And then Yana has also put together this Christmas Cats window view. And you've got the cat cushion, the window, the cornice, and the drape that is included with this. So here are the pieces. You've got the cornice that is a 2-piece die set. Then the window is a 2-piece die set. And then additionally, so is the cat bed and then the drape. And so these are all the pieces there. So there's 8 cutting dies with this one, and it makes a nice window scene. You could use it for other things as well. And we also have the press foil and die set that is called Meowy Christmas. And you've got wishing you a perfect Christmas. We wish you a Meowy Christmas. Merry Catmas. Merry Catmas again. Hope your holidays are perfectly amazing, and so on. Now, I've got all of my little bits and pieces in this tray here, and then I've got a couple more trays that I've got some designs laid out. Now, I die cut out a bunch of cats as I was doing this because I wasn't sure what colors I wanted to use, and I was trying out different colors. Now, this is the one that's laying down, and I'm just going to get it assembled. It is just 2-piece, and you don't have to add anything to the head. I'm zooming in so you can see it. And so I've used 2 different colors of brown for this one. And then this comes together pretty simply, this one does, with just the 2 pieces. So here we go, you can look at it. And I'm going to actually take the bow. The packaging has this particular cat with a bow on him. And so I'm actually going to lay it down on there, just like the packaging shows. And it's kind of different how the bow lays on there. I assembled the bow kind of like you would a bow with the loops and then the strings. But the way they show it on the packaging, the strings actually go kind of around the cat, I guess. And then you can lay the collar on top of that. And that's what I did here. So I'll get this laid down on here, give you a quick little look at it. Just getting it positioned, and I added a little gem on it as well. But it's super cute. I don't think I wind up using this particular cat on our cards today, but I wanted to assemble all of them so that you could see them. So I am going to bring in some ink and do some ink blending as we assemble these cats, just to give them a little bit more dimension and interest. And I'm just using some vintage photo on this and just adding some ink, but I think it comes together nicely. So there we have it. So we're going to get to assembling the rest of our cats so that we can step through the assembly of each of those, and I'll show you. Now, this is a little orange cat. I don't know my cat style names. I actually did pull them up on Google just to look at some of the different colors of the cats and to also kind of check out their eyes to see, how I can make their eyes look more real. And so I did pull them up. We're not really a cat household. Now, when I was a kid, I had a cat. It was a calico cat, and her name was Precious. And she actually had some kittens, and I think we gave them all away. But that was the one and only cat I ever had. And so we've always had dogs since then. But here's the cat minus the eyes, and he looks kind of strange without the eyes. But there are some pieces for the back of the cat's head. And for this one, I'm just going to put black behind there and fill it in. And it looks kind of stark. And so I'll bring in my jelly pen and I'll put a couple lines in there. And I kind of curved them And it was kind of interesting as I looked at him because this is the one that is going to be climbing up the tree. And it almost looks like he's kind of looking back like, am I getting caught? Anyway, we're going to get this next one assembled. And this one I chose to do black with the white, and it has the spots. I don't know if this is the kind of calico cat, and got it laid down on there. Now this one I'll do the eyes a little bit differently and make it look a little bit more interesting. Now I die cut the back headpiece out in white, and I'm just bringing in a green, and I'm going to color that whole head area green with my Copic marker, and then I'll lay my cat on there, line it up, and I'm going to bring in my pick tool, and I'm going to poke a couple of impressions where the eyes are, and that'll show me exactly where they are. And then I'm going to bring in a black Sharpie marker and create some lines, and it'll look like more like a cat eye. And so I just did that, and then I can line it up with my eyes. I tried doing off camera before I got started. I messed with the eyes a little bit, and I had a hard time lining them up. So that's why I used the pick tool to line it up. And here I'm moving them so you could kind of position them whichever angle you wanted the eyes to go in. And now I've got a little gray cat, little gray and white cat, and I'm going to get it assembled. And this one's arms and tail are just positioned a little bit differently than the orange one. Kind of similar in that they've got the stripes, but their arms and their tail are positioned differently. I'm going to do the same thing with this cat's eye, just like I did the other one, and add that green ink, and then add the black marks, and just make the eyes more interesting. Now this one, I didn't go as far up on the head because part of it goes on the ears, and I didn't want any green to show up from underneath there if I didn't get it lined up right. So I just left the tips of the ears white, and that way they would just blend with the top if necessary. And then added those straight lines, and it just kind of gives you that cat eye look. So we'll get it glued on there, and there we go. So those are our 4 cats. You can see I've got a lot more cats laying in that bin. Next, I'm going to bring in the press and foil plus die set, and I'm going to bring in some matte gold glimmer foil to use with this, and we'll just glimmer up several of the sentiments. Now I do want to caution you, a couple of these sentiments are very thin. I like the thin ones. J.C. Gasper had some really thin ones with his last set, and they're beautiful. But when I go to pull them off, I actually break one of them. Now, I don't think your packaging will be like this, and so you might not run into this problem. But I get these on these cardboard things, and they've got some real heavy tape on there. And I pulled on the one that was meow, 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 meow. And it was really thin, and I broke it. So I just want to caution you to just be really careful when you pull these off so that you don't break your sentiments. I am able to use it. I looked at it. I put a piece of tape on the back of it, and I was able to position it right back together, and I can use it. I didn't go ahead and glimmer it for this because I was just like, I'll worry about that situation later. And so I glimmered up all of them but that. And so I've got them all on here. They kind of went a little crooked, but it's okay. I'm going to die cut them all out, and we'll have all of them but the meow, 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 meow one, and we'll have some to choose from. Now I'm doing this voiceover early in the morning, and we're back from vacation and back in Indiana, which means the allergies are back. And I'm just showing you that sentiment. It says hope your holidays are perfectly amazing. Now I'm bringing in a blush panel cardstock, and I'm using the Herringbone Decor embossing folder for this. And I'm just going to, it is a 3D embossing folder, and so you're going to need to use your 3D sandwich. I'm just going to go off camera and emboss this, and we're going to use this for our panel. Now, this is really a neat, it kind of reminds me of like your backsplash or your flooring. Now, I'm showing you here, you could bring in a piece of gray, just do the bottom, and you could make a strip of flooring down there. And, you could have your tile walls and then a different color of flooring and lay on there. I'm not going to do that. I thought about doing it as I was thinking about my design, but I decided to just keep it simple and just use this blush panel here. And we're going to get it laid down. It is a beautiful 3D design, and you get a great impression with it. So I'm going to lay it down on its top folding card base, and I'm going to kind of hug the bottom of my frame here for some of this, but I will straighten it up eventually. I apologize for that, and you'll be able to see everything. So I've got the window scene. I have taken, I've got 2 windows there. I won't wind up using both of those. Here is the kind of the cornice, and it's a 2-layer die set, and I've got them layered together. And then this is the curtain, and I'm just going to go ahead and lay the trim to the curtain. And for my cardstock here, I'm using Fog and Anchor for this. And then we've got our white window frame. I'm going to assemble the cat bed using the same colors, and we'll get it assembled. And I'm just going to get it lined up on there, just kind of keeping my color scheme the same. I've got white for my window, and I have got some acetate with some snowflakes on the back of it. And so I'm going to lay that in as my window, and it will bring some snowflakes in. I brought that white panel in just so I wouldn't get all this tape runner all over my glass mat. And so I'm just going to work on that little area there. And then this is the acetate that has the snowflakes on it. I'm going to get it laid down on there, try and get it positioned nicely, and then give it a press. Just use the acetate or the tape runner so I wouldn't make a mess. And then I've got the dark window because it's going to be nighttime in my scene. And then I've got a white tree, and I'm going to position that tree to where it is hanging off the edge of the window, and I'm kind of down low, you can't see it, but I'll just position it, and then I'm going to trim off my tree, and then I'll get my window frame laid down on there. I had missed a little bit on the top of that frame, so I added some glue to it. Here I'm just going to cut off part of the tree, and then I'll be able to frame it out, and I'll have a tree outside the window. And I did that so that with the snow and the tree, because my cat's going to be looking out the window, and I wanted him to have something to look at. So I thought we would just add the tree, and it's just another use for the Christmas tree in this set. We will make a second card in which we adorn the Christmas tree with all the bells and whistles, or I should say bulbs and tinsel, and work with it on our next card. But for this one, I thought it would be nice to add it to the outside of the window and just have a scene for our cat to be looking at. So just getting it all pressed together. And I'm going to get it positioned on our card base with our cat bed and our curtains. I'm just kind of laying everything out to see how I want to put it together. And this is the direction we're going to go in. So we'll just get to gluing everything down, and we'll get this card together. I'm still on the bottom of the frame, but eventually I'm going to move it up. I'll look up and realize, oh, you're not all the way in frame. So we'll get the cat bed laid down there, and then we'll get our window laid down. And I like this color scheme. It's just kind of soft, and I thought it was pretty. And I do like to have some kind of pink Christmas cards. I have always been drawn to them. I think since I did one of the first kits with Spellbinders, and it had kind of a pink color scheme for Christmas, and I really enjoyed it. So I've kind of continued that as I've gone along. Now I'm going to lay some tape just on one side because this is going to overhang that window and those layers. And so I'll just put some foam tape on one side, glue up the other side, and get it laid down on there. And then we'll have our curtain, and then we can put our cornice up there. Now I have some cornices over my windows in my great room. They're actually wooden, and they're quite a bit. They're more to scale than this is. This is pretty thin. Mine are pretty big. But I do like that look from a decor thing. So I think it's fun to have these. So I'm going to get it positioned down on there. I've got a little bit more foam on there than what I need, so I'm going to have to trim off a little bit and then add a little bit more glue, and then it'll line up and lay down on the right. And again, I just apologize for my scratchy, stuffy voice. It's just that morning thing. I don't think I'm going to get it all voiced over, so I may come back in and my voice will sound different later, but because I've got to go get the boys here in a minute. So I'm going to get my little cat laid down on here, get it positioned. I think it's super, super cute. Isn't that a cute little scene? And then I'm going to bring in the sentiment that says, hope your holidays are perfectly amazing. And we'll get it laid down on there. And just give it a good press. Now, afterward, I wound up adding some sequins to the tie back for the curtain and just add a little bling to it. I thought it turned out cute. So we're going to work with the rest of our cats, and we're going to get to assembling the card for it and see how it comes together. So hang with me. It's going to be super cute, and we'll finish this up. So I pulled most of the bits and pieces for the tree, a little bit of it, and we're going to just do some ink blending and just blend up on some of this just to give it a little bit of dimension. And so I think I'm going to bring in my little waffle flower mat and just lay these down, and we'll just lay some ink on there. I've got the vintage photo, and I'm just going to ink up the stem, or the trunk of the tree, and just put some vintage photo on there and just add a little bit of extra color. And then I'll bring in some pine needles and we will ink up the Christmas tree and just add some dimension to it. We'll just lay down some color quickly. And I'll bring in some other inks and we'll get everything all inked up and ready to go. And for my packaging, I think I've got chiffon here, and so I'm just using some saltwater taffy to kind of ink those up and just add a little dimension to those. And then we're going to bring in our poppy, which is our red gift, and we're going to just bring in some more of that vintage photo and just add a little ink to it just to kind of add some distressing to that. We'll put up the sticky mat, and then we're ready to start doing our assembly of our tree and some of the things that go with it. So I've got this is like the rim to the pot that the tree is in, and I use some more poppy because I'm just kind of using the pinks and the reds as my color scheme for this particular card. And we're just going to get our pot laid down on our tree trunk, and we've got our tree assembled. Now, I have seen some people do some cards in which they had the tree tipped over and out of the pot where the cats had knocked it over, and that is super fun and super cute. So that's an idea that you could do with it. I didn't choose to do that with my card, but I thought I would share that certainly is a fun idea, because I think I've heard of numerous stories where the cats have jumped up in the tree and knocked the tree over. So I think that'd be a cute way to present this as well. But so now I've just taken some gold cardstock and I have die cut out the I don't know, this is the tinsel or the ornaments or bulbs or whatever, the garland, I guess, is what I'm looking for. And then we also have a whole bunch of bulbs that we have die cut out, and we will get those laid down on our tree as well. But for now, I'm just going to get this laid down. If I can get this piece to lay down and stop sticking to my fingers, kept wanting to glue it to my fingers. So I just kind of let it hang off on there and then just trimmed off the extra. And we've got our little tinsel. Now this is the star. I used that same gold cardstock to create the star for the top of the tree. And it's got a nice long piece there that you can attach it to the top of the tree and then get it positioned on there. I'm just going to use my tweezers to hold it. That metallic sometimes does take some time to take hold. Now this is the back piece of my present, and you can see the pink through the polka dots. So I've chosen to use that. I think it's Dahlia that I've got there. And we're just going to lay the red on top of that. And we've got a red and pink package. And, we're just kind of using these three colors for everything. I've got a pink bow that I'm going to put on there. There is also a ribbon die where you get two different sizes of the ribbon, like you had tied it around your two boxes. And so you've got two different sizes there. This is the larger one. I'm going to lay it on the larger package, and then we'll add our bow to it. And I use the dahlia for both the ribbon and the bow so that they would match. And there is debossed detail on the present, so you can kind of line it up on there. I was trying to get it all lined up. And then we'll just stick our little bow on there. I'm just going to glue it straight down. And then that will be our package. Now, I also have a smaller package there in the chiffon, and we'll bring it in, and we're going to bring in the smaller little ribbon and we'll add it down. I was like, where'd it go? I had bumped it and it had moved in a different area and I couldn't find the package. So we've got that laid down on there, and I'm cleaning up any glue and any little die cut hairs, just running my tweezers along there, just cleaning that up. And then we'll bring in, I added a bow to it, and then I brought in the molded ornate frame for my panel, and it's a 3D embossing folder, and I'm going to use it. And I actually will trim it down so that it's even all the way around. That's kind of what I was motioning toward. And then we're just going to have a little white edge on here. Now it is A2 size, but even though I taped it, I tried to get it lined up squarely, but it was a little off. And then when I cut it a little bit too much. So I just took it down a little bit all the way around, and that way I'd have a little white frame around it. It was user error, but I like how it turned out because it gave me a nice little white frame around there. And I think it all will pull in together very nicely. So now we're going to get to assembling our card. We're going to bring our elements in. We've got our tree. I'm going to get it positioned within this frame, and there's plenty of room in there for it, as well as additional room for the other elements that I'm going to bring in. So I'm just going to take my glue and get this laid straight down. Now I have several ornaments in pink and chiffon, the poppy, the dahlia, and the chiffon are the bulbs, and I'm going to bring those in. We'll get our presents laid down on here and get them positioned. I'm just going to play around with them and figure out how I like them. I think I wind up going with the red and then the pink next to it. I'm just moving things around. I'm thinking about bringing in this cat here that's laying down, but I'll decide to not use that, and I'll save that for another card for later. I'm just kind of trying to figure out how I want to do this. I know this cat's climbing up the tree just because of the position of him, and those eyes on that cat that I made, it just looks like that cat is up to something, and so it's going to climb up the tree, and I think that'll be super fun. And then, so now I'm going to get these packages laid down on there. I'm going to lay the red one here, and then we'll do the chiffon one actually on the other side of it, and we'll get it laid down. And I'm just going to bring in some glue and give it a press. And then we'll lay the chiffon one down. I wind up putting it down here next to it. We'll get it positioned and get it laid down on there. And then we'll start adding our other elements. So I did part of the voiceover this morning, and then went and got the boys and had them all day. We ran around town on the golf cart and just had fun all day. They played outside a lot. Neither one of them wound up taking a nap, which is unusual for them. And so I'm sure they'll be exhausted and go to bed early tonight, but they had a good full day. We did go to the firehouse like we normally do, and did that. And so they had a lot of fun. We went to the petting zoo, and they fed the animals. They had a good time with that. So I'm just going to put some glue down on here and where I think I want my ornaments to be, and we're just going to get them laid down on there. I'll start laying them down, and then we'll fast forward because it's kind of repetitive, and we'll get all of those laid on there, and we will have a real decorative tree, and then we can bring in our cats and our other elements for our card. So I'm just rotating between the red, the dahlia, and the chiffon bulbs and just kind of trying to mix them. I just tried to keep the color scheme pretty simple. And here we've got them all in there. Now I'm bringing in the broken ornament. And we have to have one broken laying on this side because we've got the cat is going to climb on this side of it. So I'm going to lay a broken ornament down there. And it stuck to my wax tip there, and I'm going to have to get it laid back down and get it positioned how I want it. So I'm just going to bring my tweezers in and just kind of twist it around. And then that will be a fun element since we've got that cat on that side of the tree. It just makes sense that he would knock one off and break it, so that we're going to position that cat up there. And so I'll just bring in a foam square for part of him and then just add some glue for the rest of him and get him laid down on there. Actually, I think I put 2 foam squares on there, and I put a little half of a piece on the tail. And then we'll glue the front paws up so that we can get it laid down on there. And I think it's really cute. And his eyes are just so funny looking. I wish you could see it close up. I'm not sure you'll be able to tell from the photos. And then our cat with a sweater, we have to use it. He really matches the color scheme of our card. So we're going to get him laid down on there. Now, I forgot to put his hat on, and I will bring it back in later as I'm finishing it up, and I look over and I see, oh, I forgot his little hat. And so I'll bring in a hat. He'll have a little Santa hat to go with his little sweater. And it'll be really cute. Now here I'm looking at this. Do I have room? No, you don't have room for this. Just save this for later. So I put it back in my little bin with all of my other extra bits and pieces of my cat. I'm giving you a quick look at it. I'm going to rummage through my sentiments and decide what I'm going to use on my sentiments. And I've decided to use We Wish You a Meowy Christmas on this one, and we'll get it laid down on there. And then I'm going to bring in some gems. I've got some gold gems from Spellbinders, and I'm just going to position, we'll put 3 underneath the sentiment and then 2 above our orange tabby cat. And then I'll realize that I don't have my Santa hat on there, and I'll come back in and add it. And I'm looking in my tray, and I'm like, oh, there's my hat. So I'm going to just grab my little hat and my little white ball that goes with it. I'm looking for the white ball right now. Got the hat. If I can get it picked up with my tweezers. And then we'll get the little white ball laid on there. And we've got a little Santa hat that's going to go on our little cat. Just get it positioned on there. This is a really fun set. The cat lovers out there, I think, are going to want to grab this up. And if you want it, I would just say you probably need to get it, because you never know what things are going to sell out. We've had some things sell out pretty quickly lately. I tried the other cat. I had it and the dahlia, the hat on that cat, and I decided I didn't like it. And so I left well enough alone. These dies can all be picked up in a bundle at Spellbinders, and you can save with the bundle. I'll link everything in the description box below. I've taken a picture of my cards. Here's the first one where the cat's looking out the window at a night scene. And then we've got the 2 cats that are up to no good on the Christmas tree. Thanks for watching. If you like, consider hitting that like. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.